Chapter 1399. She sat up and looked in the direction of the sound. The door opened a crack, and a big furry head poked in. Its movements suddenly stopped, and it looked helplessly at the teacup that had suddenly fallen in front of it. Clearly, it didn't expect that its subtle movements would cause such a big commotion. Who would have thought that someone would put a teacup on an unlocked door? Someone was too much. As if it sensed her gaze, it slowly turned its stiff neck and looked in her direction. A human and a beast looked at each other. A pair of icy blue eyes widened slightly, and there was some nervousness in them. Then it blinked. Awake, awake! Looking at Xue Xue's dazed expression, Chu Luiyue couldn't help but laugh out loud, and she waved at it. Xue Xue, why are you in a daze? Come here. Roar. Xue Xue let out an excited roar, and it quickly pounced on Chu Luiyue. With a vigorous leap, it directly jumped from the door into Chu Luiyue's arms. It was about to hug her. A cold and deep voice came from outside the door. Xue Xue immediately became alert, and it slammed on the brakes. It actually stopped half an inch in front of Chu Luiyue. Its big head almost hit Chu Luiyue's face. The scene seemed to have frozen. Chu Luiyue looked at the wet nose in front of her, and the pair of icy blue eyes that were filled with panic and guilt, and the corners of her eyes twitched slightly. A well-defined hand appeared on the door, and then it slowly pushed it open. Rong Xiu walked in. It seemed to be evening at this time, and the afterglow of the setting sun shone on him with a faint golden glow, making him look like a god that had walked out of a painting. His deep and clear phoenix eyes looked at Chu Luiyue, and his thin scarlet lips curled up slightly. You're awake? When he heard the commotion, he had already guessed it and immediately came in. Chu Luiyue looked at his face. The light behind him enveloped his face, and it was as clear as jade, but it also seemed to be covered by a layer of veil that couldn't be seen through. Rong Xiu. She tilted her head. I dreamt of you. Rong Xiu's eyes moved slightly and he walked over. His footsteps were calm, and his whole body was cold and noble. Is that so? Standing by the bed, he glanced at Xue Xue's body. Xue Xue shuddered and tactfully turned around to leave, running away like a wisp of smoke. Chu Luiyue, what did you dream of? Asked Rong Xiu softly as he sat down by the bed and held her hand. Chu Luiyue stared at him fixedly as if she wanted to see something from his eyes. She smiled. I took you to see the peach blossoms blooming in winter. Rong Xiu's expression didn't change, but there seemed to be waves in the depths of his eyes. Was it beautiful? He held her face with one hand, and the corners of his mouth curled up. A warm breath came from his palm, with deep affection and gentleness. Chu Luiyue's heart skipped a beat, and she suddenly felt a strong sense of fatigue. She held Rong Xiu's hand and gently pressed her face against it. Rong Xiu was slightly stunned. In the next moment, Chu Luiyue looked up at him again. Perhaps it was because she had just woken up, or perhaps it was because the dream was too complicated, and it made her physically and mentally exhausted. Her voice became lazy and slightly elongated, and there was a hint of softness and coquettishness in it. Rong Xiu, she spoke in a low voice, but it was like a long silk thread that gently wrapped around his heart. His heart suddenly softened. He moved closer, took her into his arms, and kissed her between her eyebrows. It's beautiful when I look at it with you. Chu Luiyue muttered. Her voice wasn't loud, but he heard it clearly. He couldn't help but laugh, and even the corners of his eyes and eyebrows had a hint of a smile. Really? Chu Luiyue leaned on his shoulder and nodded gently. I don't know why, but I can't see your face clearly in my dreams. Rong Xiu paused and pinched her delicate earlobe. I'm right here. You can look at me however you want. Chu Luiyue leaned in his arms for a while, and when she felt that her physical and mental strength had recovered, she propped herself up. She looked at him, and her eyes were as bright as stars. Suddenly, she leaned forward and quickly kissed him on the lips. You're right. He was hers, and he was right here. What was there to be conflicted about? Rong Xiu's eyes suddenly darkened. However, just as he was about to continue, Chu Luiyue suddenly said, Rong Xiu, can you do me a favor? Rong Xiu paused. What favor? Chu Luiyue looked hesitant. I want to go to Mount Pingmin. Rong Xiu raised his eyebrows slightly. Why? No reason. Chu Liwei said, took half a step back, and was about to lift the quilt and get up. Halfway through lifting the quilt, she suddenly stopped. Then, she slowly raised her head and looked at Rong Xiu in a daze. How long have I slept? She vaguely knew that she was carried back to Mount Jianghu by Rong Xiu from the northern region of the primitive land, but she didn't remember how much time she had experienced on the way. Rong Xiu looked calm. 7 days. The corners of Chu Liyue's eyes twitched crazily. She swallowed hard and asked word by word, then, my clothes for the past 7 days. I helped you change your clothes, and I fed you tea and pills. Rong Xiu seemed to know what she wanted to ask, and he answered smoothly. He suddenly approached and put his hands on Chu Liyue's side. Chu Liyue instinctively moved backward and only stopped when her back touched the head of the bed. Rong Xiu quietly closed in, and the distance between the two of them rapidly shortened. Finally, they breathed. There seemed to be thousands of streams of light flowing in his eyes, which was intoxicating. Any woman in the world would find it difficult to break free from such a deep gaze. Then, Chu Liyue's face suddenly became hot, and her whole body was hot. The blood on my body, those dirty blood stains naturally have to be washed away as soon as possible. Otherwise, the wound will become inflamed and even fester, won't it? Rong Xiu continued her words. No one else in the academy can do this, so I can only do it personally. You don't want your identity to be exposed, right? He was very close, and when he spoke, his warm breath sprayed on her slender neck and ears. It was like a spark starting a prairie fire. Chu Liyue didn't hear his words clearly for a moment, and only felt like something was gently scratching her heart, making her a little distracted. Don't worry. In order to let your wound recover as soon as possible, I will help you every day for the next few days. Chu Liyue finally couldn't listen anymore. She grabbed the front of his clothes, pulled him over, and kissed him. There seemed to be flames burning in her eyes, warm and bright. Let's see what else you can say. Rong Xiu suddenly sighed softly, and his words were unclear. Actually, it's been hard on me. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1400. It's been hard on me too. Chu Liyue's face seemed to be on fire. It was almost boiling hot. Was she sleeping too deeply these days, or was Rong Xiu's movements so gentle that she didn't notice? Rong Xiu. It was rare for Chu Liyue to feel embarrassed. Rong Xiu saw that her face was red from teasing, so he finally stopped and left reluctantly. He held her hand and intertwined their fingers. We're already engaged, we're just short of a big wedding, aren't we? If you think it's impossible, you help me? Chu Liyue didn't know how to respond. This man's heart, liver, spleen, and lungs were really black, and his skin was getting thicker by the day. She took a deep breath, snorted softly, and glared at him. In your dreams? Immediately, she was finally able to get up. At this moment, she realized that the snow-white underwear on her body didn't seem to be her clothes. As if seeing her doubts, Rong Xiu kindly explained, I have some spare clothes. It's just that. They're all from a few months ago, and now they don't quite fit. At this point, he glanced at her body with an extremely indifferent gaze. Although these were modeled after men's clothes and the underwear was looser, it still couldn't hide the girl's exquisite figure. Her stillness and movement were breathtaking. He vaguely felt a little hot, so he automatically looked away, one hand unconsciously loosening his collar. Make do with them first, I'll get them to send new ones over in a few days. Chu Liyue. You've been preparing clothes for me? He even prepared underwear. Rong Xiu didn't deny it and said frankly, you're growing. You're still growing, so it's natural for you to change your clothes often. It's supposed to be changed once a month, but you've been staying in the academy recently, so they didn't send them over for the time being. After all, she was still 16 or 17 years old. In such a short period of time, she had undergone amazing changes. Rong Xiu calmly rubbed his fingers, and there seemed to be a lingering fragrance on his fingertips. Chu Liyue felt that she couldn't stay in this room any longer. She searched around and found that the previous clothes were all gone. Thinking about it, Those clothes were full of blood stains, so she couldn't take them back. She took out a red robe from the universe ring and put it on, with a black jade belt around her waist. With her hair tied up, from afar, she looked like an elegant young man. Except for her exceedingly beautiful face. Chu Luiyue looked at herself in the bronze mirror and sized herself up. It's not good to wear that mask all the time, so I'll only help you wear it for a while when elders. As Rongxiu spoke, he flicked his wrist, and the thin mask flew to Chu Luiyue and gently landed on the ground. Chu Luiyue reached out and caught it. She wanted to put it on her face, but she paused after thinking about it. She looked up at herself in the bronze mirror again. She hadn't looked at her face so carefully for a long time. A few months had passed, and her appearance seemed to have changed slightly. Her eyes were more delicate and beautiful, and the contours of her cheeks were clearer. All in all, she looked more and more like the Shangguan Yu of the past. She remembered that when she was this age in her previous life, her appearance seemed to be 70 to 80% similar to her current appearance. Coupled with her expression, it was even more similar. A thought suddenly flashed through Chu Luiyue's mind. Would she become exactly the same as her old self in a few years? But how could there be someone who was exactly the same in this world? Chu Luiyue lowered her eyes slightly to hide the emotions in her eyes, and carefully put the mask back on. Yes or no, she would know when the time came. After checking her body from head to toe and confirming that there were no problems, Chu Luiyue turned to look at Rongxiu. Will you help me with the previous favor? She was talking about the matter of Mount Pengmin. Rongxiu's breath froze slightly, and then he smiled at her. I will do my best to help you. After Chu Luiyue packed up, she went to find Elder Wan Zheng. After all, he was her master, and he had worked hard for her during this period of time. She had to go over and greet him. And the news of her waking up was also known by Elder Bo Yen, because it was Rongxiu who came personally to tell him. What? You want Chu Yu to enter Mount Pengmin? Elder Bo Yen stopped what he was doing and closed the thick book with a puzzled look. He just woke up and his body should still be very weak, right? Isn't it inappropriate to go to Mount Pengmin at this time? Besides, that place has always been the place where students who have made mistakes have been imprisoned. He's fine, so there's no reason for him to. You don't have to worry about that. You know that he just broke through to the stage 9 martial artist. Besides, it's a stretch to say that she didn't do anything wrong. She originally didn't have the qualifications to follow Elder Hua Feng on this trip to the northern region of the Great Desolate Land, but she still went in the end. Furthermore, after she went, she also caused a lot of trouble. Being imprisoned in Mount Pengmin is not a punishment, but a warning. Rongxiu knew that Elder Bo Yen would not agree to this easily, so he had already prepared an excuse. Elder Bo Yen fell into deep thought and was still hesitant. But in the end, this matter should be blamed on Hua Feng. After all, without his permission, Chu Yu couldn't have gone. As for what happened after that, it wasn't actually Chu Yu's own will. Elder Bo Yen didn't really want to put all the blame on Chu Luiyue alone. He frowned and looked at Rongxiu with uncertainty. Rongxiu, there should be another reason why you want him to go to Mount Pengmin, right? Based on Rongxiu's attitude towards Chu Yu, he definitely wasn't here to punish him this time. Rongxiu paused for a moment. Yes, Mount Pengmin is indeed dangerous, but the most dangerous place is often the safest place. A faint smile appeared on his face. I just need a period of time. On the other side, Elder Wan Zheng was overjoyed when he saw Chu Luiyue. He pulled her over and sized her up a few times. After confirming that her small body had really recovered and that there were no other problems, he finally relaxed. Stinking brat. This sleep scared your master half to death. Elder Wan Zheng was usually a rather serious person. Now that he said such words, it could be seen that he was deeply affected by Chu Luiyue. There was nothing he could do. When he thought of her lying in Rongxiu's arms with a pale and haggard face, his heart tightened. All these years, he had searched and searched, and it wasn't easy for him to find this disciple. How could he not feel heartache when something happened? Chu Luiyue's heart warmed. Master, don't worry, I'm fine. Wan Zheng. At this moment, a familiar voice sounded. The two of them turned around and saw a barefoot old man waving a cattail leaf fan flying over. Elder Meng Yi. Chu Liuyue's heart suddenly skipped a beat. If I remember correctly, Elder Meng Yi said that when Elder Wanjing returned he would show him the bill? Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from the Love Network. Chapter 1401. Meng Yi. Why you here? Elder Wanzheng was in a good mood at this moment. When he looked at Elder Meng Yi, he was all smiles. Of course, I'm here to deliver something to you. Elder Meng Yi shouted with great vigor. As he spoke, he had already arrived in front of Elder Wanzheng. The moment he landed, he took a closer look and saw Chu Luiyue standing beside him. He was pleasantly surprised at first. Then, he thought of something and his smile turned meaningful. Yo-ho! Chu Yu! You're here too? But have you recovered? Chu Luiyue sighed inwardly. It seemed like the entire academy already knew that she had been unconscious for such a long time. Thank you for your concern, Elder Meng Yi. Chu Luiyue bowed obediently. I just woke up today, and my body is much better. I wanted to pay my master a visit, but I didn't expect to meet you here. May I know how Elder Meng Yi is doing? Elder Meng Yi flapped his fan and laughed. Good, of course. He was staying in the academy and taking care of the Medicine Wind Valley. How could he not be doing well? The ones who weren't doing well were those who went to the north of the wilderness. Right, Wanzheng, I'm here today to deliver something to you. Elder Meng Yi chuckled. Chu Luiyue raised her eyebrows slightly. She suddenly had the thought of leaving. Master, Elder Meng Yi, please take your time. I won't disturb you any longer. Elder Wanzheng hurriedly said. Hey, why are you leaving so soon? We haven't had a proper talk yet. Chu Liuyue's mouth twitched. If she continued to stay, they wouldn't be able to have a proper talk. Elder Meng Yi chuckled. If the child wants to leave, just let him go. He has just recovered and he has many things to do. Don't you think so, Chu Yu? Chu Luiyue nodded seriously. It seemed like Elder Meng Yi didn't intend to push her into a corner. However, Elder Wanzheng wasn't willing to do so. Even if you have something to do, you have to step back. She was his precious disciple. Who didn't she have to step back? Meng Yi, what did you say you were going to give me? Elder Meng Yi clenched his fist and coughed dryly. It's nothing much. Elder Wanzheng had a strange look on his face. Meng Yi usually stayed in Medicine Wind Valley and rarely came out. Normally, they would only be willing to leave that place when there was an urgent matter. What's going on today? At this moment, another person arrived. Chu Yu. Chu Luiyue turned his head and heaved a sigh of relief. Senior brother Rong Xiu. Rong Xiu, why are you here? Elder Wanzheng swept his gaze across the group. What day was it today? These people rarely set foot in this place, but they actually came together today. Rong Xiu's footsteps looked light and slow, but his speed was extremely fast. In a short while, he had already arrived in front of them. He first bowed to the two elders, then slowly smiled and said, Elder Bo Yan asked me to bring Chu Yu to Pingmin Mountain. This time, the two elders were both shocked. Pengmin Mountain? Again! There was a moment of silence. Chu Luiyue rubbed his glabella. How can this do? Chu Yu just woke up, and his body hasn't recovered yet. He can't go. Elder Wanzheng was protective of his disciple and would not agree no matter what. In his opinion, his precious disciple had just come out of the well and entered the fire pit. Master, this is Elder Bo Yan's order, we can't go against it. Chu Liuyue just said a sentence when he was interrupted by Elder Wanzheng. Don't worry. This time, I'll personally go and seek an explanation for you. Bullying us has become a habit? Chu Liuyue felt his head hurt even more. Elder Wanzheng. Rong Xiu did not seem to be worried and only smiled. Elder Bo Yan has his reasons for doing this. Reasons? What reasons? Elder Wanzheng was very unconvinced. His precious disciple had suffered a lot recently, how could he still go to Pengmin Mountain at this time? Rong Xiu calmly explained, that's right. After the incident in the northern part of the great desolate land, the Academy has been investigating the truth behind it. I heard that in these 2 days, The other first-rate families and clans have also come out one after another and started to do this. A turmoil might be coming. Elder Wan Zheng's movements paused, and his expression became complicated. Chu Yu was the only one who was taken away by those people in public. Needless to say, she also obtained some kind of opportunity in that place and broke through to become a Stage 9 warrior. She will definitely be one of the targets that everyone will investigate. Entering Pengmin Mountain, on one hand, he can cultivate in peace, and on the other hand, he can avoid all these disturbances. Rong Xiu's tone was calm from beginning to end, but it carried a strange persuasiveness that made people involuntarily believe in it. Elder Wan Zheng was silent for a long time. Chu Luiyue took a step forward. Master, you don't have to worry. I feel that Pengmin Mountain is actually quite good. She was speaking from the bottom of her heart. Unfortunately, in Elder Wan Zheng's ears, it was his precious disciple who said it on purpose so that he wouldn't be worried. He felt more and more heartache and shook his head repeatedly. Forget it. Since that's the case, you go over for a while. When this matter is over, you will definitely come out as soon as possible. Chu Luiyue smiled. Then Master, I will go with Senior Rong Xiu now? Elder Wan Zheng waved his hand. Chu Luiyue bowed again before leaving with Rong Xiu. After watching the two figures disappear, Elder Wan Zheng reluctantly retracted his gaze. Sigh, don't be sad for now. Elder Meng Yi nudged him with his elbow and handed over something. What is this? Elder Wan Zheng took it with a blank face. Elder Meng Yi grinned. Actually, it's nothing much. It's just the medicinal herbs bill that Chu Yu took from Medicine Wind Valley some time ago. Look, isn't it time to settle the bill? Elder Wan Zheng could not help but laugh. I was still wondering what it was. Isn't it just? The rest of his words stopped abruptly. Elder Wan Zheng stared at the item in his hand with his mouth agape. He almost thought that his eyes were playing tricks on him. This brat, did he pick the entire Medicine Wind Valley? Elder Meng Yi was a little unhappy. Sigh, how can it be so exaggerated? It's clearly only 3/4. Moreover, don't you have a lot of points? That's nothing to you, is it? Elder Wan Zheng closed his eyes. He suddenly remembered what his disciple said just now. That Pengmin Mountain was quite good. It was a good place to hide from the limelight. So it was waiting for him here. This brat. Elder Wan Zheng fiercely stuffed the bill back into Elder Meng Ye's arms. Settle the bill. Next time, I must nurture a top celestial physician. Chu Luiyue did not hear Elder Wan Zheng's bold words. She walked with Rong Xiu all the way. She was familiar with the road and soon arrived at Pengmin Mountain. Rong Xiu took a step forward. Elder Meng. Rong Xiu brought Chu Yu to greet him. No one responded. There was silence. Rong Xiu frowned slightly. Elder Meng. Digression. Today was another day of running. The rest of the day would probably have to go home very late to continue updating. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 1402. After a while, the barrier in front of her finally rippled and slowly opened. Come in. An old and deep voice entered her ears. Chu Luiyue was slightly stunned. This voice sounded a little more serious and cold than before, and vaguely, there seemed to be a little tiredness. I haven't been here for a while, why? Rong Xiu narrowed his eyes, obviously sensing that something was wrong. He turned around and looked at Chu Luiyue. Chu Luiyue's figure flashed as she followed Rong Xiu in. The two went straight and came to the tower. With previous experience, Chu Luiyue was now familiar with the place. She walked straight to the door. When she was 3 steps away, the door slowly opened. Looking inside, it was pitch black. Chu Luiyue's heart tightened. She took a deep breath and walked inside. You, Chu Yu. Rong Xiu suddenly called out to her. Chu Luiyue turned around. The two looked at each other. In the silence, something seemed to be flowing slowly. Rong Xiu's thin lips moved slightly, and waves gradually appeared in his eyes. But in the end, he calmed down. Everything went well. Chu Luiyue's lips curved slightly. Don't worry, I will. With that, she turned around and walked through the door without hesitation. Bang! The door closed tightly, and her figure completely disappeared from sight. Rong Xiu stood tall, with one hand behind his back, and stared at the door for a long time. After a long time, he finally turned around and left. Coming to this place again, Chu Luiwei felt a long-lost sense of familiarity. Step by step, she walked inside. Suddenly, she stopped in her tracks and looked at the scene in front of her with a shocked expression. In the empty and quiet room, there were originally 7 suspended doors, but now only 6 were left. The 6 doors had changed their positions, and the distance between them was the same. At a glance, it was impossible to tell that there used to be 7 doors here. Chu Luiwei hesitated for a moment, then asked, "Elder Meng, why is there a door missing here?" After a moment of silence, Elder Meng spoke in a low voice. "Nothing much, just a little trouble." "Little troublemaker?" It didn't look like it at all. Chu Luiwei cursed in his heart. There were a total of 7 doors, and all of a sudden, one was missing. If she hadn't been here before, she wouldn't have noticed the problem. However, Chu Luiwei knew that Elder Meng didn't want to talk about it in detail, so he didn't continue to ask. "Originally, during this period of time, I wasn't going to let anyone in, but Bo Yen and Rong Xiu both spoke up for you, so I had no choice but to allow it." Old Meng said in a deep voice. A strange expression flashed across Chu Luiwei's face. In the eyes of others, being imprisoned here was one of the greatest punishments. They were afraid that they would not be able to avoid it. Only when it came to her, she was not the only one who wanted to come. Even the others were helping her. This kind of feeling was really awesome. Rong Xiu and the rest must have used the same excuse they used to deal with Elder Wanzheng to convince Elder Meng. For some reason, Chu Luiwei felt a little guilty. "Thank you, Elder Meng." She cupped her fists and bowed respectfully. "All right, you've been in the academy for a few months, and this is the 3rd time you've come. Others may not know what kind of person you are, but do you think I don't know?" Elder Meng sneered. Chu Luiwei coughed softly and touched her nose awkwardly. This was really, although there's a door missing, it doesn't matter. You just have to choose one and go in. He really didn't know what this kid had done to make Bo Yen and Rong Xiu speak up for him, just to send him here. If it was any other time, it wouldn't matter. However, during this period of time, if it wasn't for those people, he wouldn't have let this kid in at this time. Forget it. In the end, it was just a small matter. Chu Luiwei responded and looked at the 6 doors in front of her. These doors were still emitting a faint glow, and were no different from what she had seen before. Chu Luiwei hesitated for a moment and pointed to the leftmost door. "I want to choose this one." "Enter." Elder Meng's answer was straightforward. Chu Luiwei walked over. She pressed one hand on the door and pushed hard. The door didn't budge. Chu Luiwei took a step back in surprise and took a closer look. There was no problem. But why didn't this door open? She tried to increase her strength. She still couldn't push it open. This shouldn't be her problem, right? Chu Luiwei shouted with some hesitation. "Elder Meng, this door can't be opened?" Elder Meng obviously didn't expect this to happen. In the past, all these doors could be opened casually. "You really can't open it?" Chu Luiwei pushed again with an innocent look. It was like an iron wall. Indeed, it couldn't be opened. "Then try another one," Elder Meng said. Chu Luiwei nodded and walked to the second door. After a push, her expression changed again. "Elder Meng, I still can't open it." "Impossible." Elder Meng raised his voice. Chu Luiwei smiled bitterly. "Do you think I can lie to you here?" It wasn't that she hadn't been here before. Every time, she directly pushed the door open and entered. When had it ever been like this time, where she couldn't open it after much effort? Clearly, there was something wrong with this door. Elder Meng was silent for a moment. "Try another one." Chu Luiwei held her breath and walked to the 3rd door. Staring at the door in front of her, she suddenly had a strong premonition. Perhaps she reached out her hand and tried it. Then she shook her head and gave up. "Elder Meng, no." Then, under Elder Meng's instructions, Chu Luiwei tried all 6 doors. None of them worked. All the doors seemed to be locked from the inside. They couldn't be opened at all. Chu Luiwei rubbed between her eyebrows. She felt a headache coming on. Elder Meng couldn't help but ask, "Kid, is there something wrong with you?" Chu Luiwei was speechless. Elder Meng, I haven't been here for a while. This shouldn't be my fault, right? Chu Luiyue felt that this was a scam. When she came, there was one door missing. Obviously, something had happened here before. How could she be blamed for this? Elder Meng choked for a moment, then snorted. Then you can stay in this hall. This kid has a temper. It was already troublesome enough because of that thing, and now I have to take care of this kid. What a thankless task. Chu Luiyue said. Stay in the hall then. These doors can't be opened anyway. Isn't it the same wherever I am? After saying that, Chu Luiyue sat on the ground. The jade floor was cold and cool. A wave of coldness swept over. Chu Luiyue couldn't help but shiver. She sat cross-legged with her shoulders hanging naturally. Her palms were on her knees with her palms facing up. The surrounding heaven and earth force slowly surged toward her body. Chu Luiyue gradually calmed down. Although the concentration of heaven and earth force here wasn't as strong as the one behind the door, it wasn't bad. Suddenly, a thought flashed through her mind like a spark from a flint. Wait, the door that disappeared, was it the door that she went through before? Digression, I only got home after 8 o'clock tonight. I'm so sorry. I'll update at 12 o'clock tomorrow. I'm going to eat. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1403. Just as this thought popped up in her head, Chu Luiyue suddenly felt a faint light flash across her eyes. She closed her eyes and looked again, but there was nothing there. The void in front of her was still empty. Her fingertips moved slightly, and she was surprised to find that the space around her seemed to have become more viscous. This change was very subtle. If one did not look carefully, they would not notice it. Confusion surfaced in Chu Luiyue's heart. This place, why is it getting weirder? She wanted to ask Elder Meng, but on second thought, everything here should be under Elder Meng's control. Since he did not have any reaction, it should be fine. She closed her eyes and entered the state of cultivation again. Chu Luiyue stayed in Mount Pengmin just like that. Outside, however, a storm was already brewing. Liang Shaokong, the third young master of the Liang family, died in the primeval desolate north for no reason. They did not even know who the murderer was. Liang Xiaoxiao went back to the Liang family without stopping. When she reached home, the Liang family had already received the news. The atmosphere in the Liang family, from inside to outside, was solemn. In the study, the Liang family's master, Liang Ye, was frowning. The dark circles under his eyes, as well as his bloodshot eyes, made this extraordinary figure seem much older and more haggard. Although he had several sons, he had always doted on Liang Shaokong the most. Now that he had lost his beloved son, how could he not be sad? When Liang Xiaoxiao came in, she found that the air here seemed to have frozen. "Father!" She opened her mouth, and tears were falling from her eyes. Liang Ye immediately went forward. "Xiaoxiao, you're finally back." He stared at Liang Xiaoxiao. "You went to the primeval desolate north with the academy. Do you know what happened to your brother?" Liang Xiaoxiao wiped her tears and asked while holding back her sobs. "Father, didn't you say that the family has something to do, so you won't get involved in the primeval desolate north? Why would third brother appear there?" Liang Ye's expression froze and he looked away. "He sneaked over behind my back. Father, do you believe what you said? Third brother didn't go alone. He brought along a few elders from the clan. Without your permission, how could third brother possibly invite them?" Liang Xiaoxiao originally didn't know about it, but this matter had already spread throughout the entire Liang family. No matter how slow she was, she should have known. Liang Ye loosened his grip on her arm and half turned around. He took a deep breath and closed his eyes. After a long while, he said, "I'm sorry. You also know that your third brother is not the most outstanding in all aspects. It will be difficult for him to convince everyone to inherit the family business. If he can make a contribution in the northern region of the Great Desolate Land, then, Father." "You're confused." Liang Xiaoxiao couldn't help but interrupt him. She felt as if there was a fire burning in her chest. "Don't you know how capable third brother is? The Great Desolate North is so dangerous, and you actually let him go just like that?" And behind her back. No, this matter should have been done behind the backs of the entire Liang family. All for the sake of letting Liang Shaokong amaze the world with a single brilliant feat. Take this opportunity to rise to the top. Liang Ye could not help but raise his voice. I've already sent several elders to follow him closely, who knows? His voice came to an abrupt stop, and the veins on his forehead bulged as he slammed his fist on the table beside him. Bang! A corner of the high-quality table carved from black iron wood was smashed into pieces. Liang Xiaoxiao's body trembled, and a wave of bitterness surged in her heart. That's right. Father was also doing this for third brother's sake. He should be feeling worse than anyone else, right? She took a deep breath and said word by word, Father, although I still don't know who the culprit is, I know where to start investigating. Liang Ye suddenly turned around. Liang Xiaoxiao clenched her fists, and a deep hatred appeared in her eyes. Jianghu. If you want to find the truth, you just have to find her. Jianghu? The Jiang family of the Immortal Water Tomb? What does this have to do with her? Liang Ye was confused. He looked at Liang Xiaoxiao's expression and could not help but ask, also, weren't you very close to her in the past? How? Close? Father, you don't know what that bitch did. Following that, Liang Xiaoxiao told Liang Ye everything that she knew in detail. Liang Ye's expression changed rapidly. In the end, there was only a layer of frost left. The Academy has always maintained a neutral stance. It's basically impossible to get any information from them. Jiang Jiwan is different. Moreover, third brother once asked her for help, but she still ignored him. How despicable! Liang Xiaoxiao wanted nothing more than to tear Jiang Jiwan to shreds right now. I understand. Liang Ye suppressed the anger in his heart and laughed coldly. Just someone from the Immortal Water Mausoleum, and yet they have such guts. I'd like to see how they plan to give the Liang family an explanation this time. As he spoke, he lifted his foot and walked out. Father, where are you going? Liang Xiaoxiao was shocked and hurried to follow. Liang Ye did not look back. I'm going to the Immortal Water Mausoleum personally to find out the truth and avenge Shaokong. Liang Xiaoxiao pursed her lips. I'll go with you. The Liang family people came to the Immortal Water Mausoleum aggressively, but they came up empty. Jiang Jiwan did not return to the Immortal Water Mausoleum at all. She went straight to the Yuntian Tower. Bitch! How cunning! Liang Xiaoxiao was furious. If Jiang Jiwan escaped to the Yuntian Tower, then it would not be so easy to force her out again. After all, the Yuntian Tower was also a first-class family, and its status was higher than theirs. They dared to come to the Immortal Water Mausoleum to cause trouble, but they might not dare to go to the Yuntian Tower's door. But Liang Ye had a different attitude. The Yuntian Tower might not protect her. Xiaoxiao, didn't you say that Jiang Jiwan asked Rong Xiu for help, but Rong Xiu ignored her? Liang Xiaoxiao smiled mockingly. That's right. She still thinks that she's the future princess of the Yuntian Tower and that Rong Xiu will treat her differently from others. In fact, I think Rong Xiu won't even look at her. That day, Rong Xiu gave Jiang Jiwan a hard slap in front of everyone. That's right. Liang Ye sighed in relief. Rong Xiu is in charge of the Yuntian Tower now. His attitude toward Jiang Jiwan will determine the attitude of the Yuntian Tower toward her. He did not believe that the Yuntian Tower would want to get involved with such a big problem. Liang Xiaoxiao's eyes lit up. Father is right. Jiang Ziyuan had already been expelled from the Ling Shao Academy, and her reputation in the Divine Ruins world had reached rock bottom. Even if the Immortal Water Mausoleum is the leader of the 28 divisions of the Yuntian Tower, they might not be willing to protect her. Liang Ye nodded. Then, let's go to the Yuntian Tower. If Jiang Jiwan is rejected, we can make our move. Yuntian Tower. Jiang Hetyan and Jiang Jiwan had been waiting outside the barrier for 3 days and 3 nights. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1404. After what had happened, Jiang Jiwan had thought that her mentality had been tempered and that she would be able to deal with any problem she faced. However, after waiting here for 3 days, She was on the verge of despair again. She had never thought that the Yuntian Tower, where she had come and gone freely since she was a child, would one day reject her. And so mercilessly. Jiang Hetian's expression darkened. However, he was a man who had seen his fair share of storms and was able to keep his composure better than Jiang Jiwan. He glanced at the sky, then stepped forward again and asked the guard in charge, "Is Elder Yu Jingzuan not here yet?" The guard cupped his hands in salute, but his expression was cold and indifferent. "Elder Yu Jingzuan is very busy. We don't know when he will arrive." How could Jiang Hetian not see that the guard was being perfunctory? If it was in the past, they would not have dared to treat him like this. However, now that the princess consort of the Yuntian Tower had been decided and Jiang Jiwan had failed, they no longer had to treat her like this. Not to mention, the news of Jiang Jiwan's expulsion from Lingxiao College had already spread like wildfire. Given the sensitivity of the Yuntian Tower, they would have known about it long ago. If not for the fact that the tomb of immortal water had a place among the 28 tribes, they would not even have had the chance to wait here. They would have been directly kicked out. Jiang Hetian glanced inside again. Of course, he could not see anything clearly from here. He paused and could not help but ask, "Did you really inform your superiors of our arrival?" The guard frowned. "Patriarch Jiang, do you not trust us?" Wasn't he openly questioning them? Jiang Hetian's heart skipped a beat. It's a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. Maybe Elder Yu Jingzuan is still busy, we'll just wait a little longer. After saying that, he took 2 steps back and stood to the side. When Jiang Ziyuan saw this, she almost gnashed her teeth to pieces. If not for her, father would not have to suffer such humiliation. What's the fuss? Just then, a cold and serious voice sounded. Jiang Hetian and Jiang Jiwan were overjoyed and looked up. An old man walked out of the barrier. It was Honorable Elder Yu Jing, whom they had been waiting for 3 days. Honorable Elder Yu Jing. Jiang Hetian hurriedly stepped forward, and just as he was about to speak, he saw Elder Yu Jing raising his palm. There's no need to say more. This old man already knows what happened. His tone was much colder than before. However, the fact that he was able to come out at this time was already a pleasant surprise for Jiang Hetian and his daughter, so how could they care less? Elder Yu Jingzuan glared at Jiang Jiwan. "You want to enter the Yuntian Tower for self-reflection and cultivation?" Jiang Jiwan felt a chill run down her spine and responded in a low voice. "Ziyuan has been doing something wrong recently and has caused a lot of trouble for everyone. Therefore, please stay here and cultivate while you wait for the patriarch to come out of seclusion. Clan leader has already been in seclusion for a few years. I don't know when he will come out. Once you leave, I don't know when you'll be able to come out. Are you sure?" Honorable Elder Yu Jing narrowed his eyes. Jiang Jiwan's hands, which were crossed on her lower abdomen, were tightly intertwined. After a moment, she said, "Clan leader has always treated Ziyuan with love and care. This is what Ziyuan should do. As long as clan leader doesn't come out of seclusion, Ziyuan will not step out of Wanzhong Mountain." Wanzhong Mountain was the place where clan leader was in seclusion. Elder Yu Jing stared at Jiang Jiwan from head to toe for a long time. "Since that's the case, from today onwards, you will go. Oh, why is this place so lively?" Before Honorable Elder Yu Jing could finish his words, a voice with a smile came from afar. However, when they heard this voice, their expressions changed. In the blink of an eye, that person's figure had already approached quickly. "Greetings to 36 Honorable Elder Ming." The guard bowed respectfully. 36 Honorable Elder Ming chuckled and waved his hand. His eyes quickly swept across the few of them, and he asked in surprise, "Oh, Patriarch Jiang, when did you guys come? Why didn't you say anything in advance? Look, you came from afar, but we didn't make any preparations in advance. What if we neglected you?" Jiang Hetian's face was faintly green. Why is this guy here? And judging from his words, he's clearly here to cause trouble. He deliberately only revealed the news to Elder Yu Jing because he wanted to enter the Yuntian Tower before the news spread. As long as what was done, the others couldn't jump out to object. However, now that 36 Honorable Elder Ming was here, it would be difficult for Jiang Jiwan to enter the Yuntian Tower. he forced a smile and said, 36 Honorable Elder Ming is busy and doesn't dare to disturb you. We have already asked Honorable Elder Yu Jing? I heard you guys talking about clan leader just now. What's going on? 36 Honorable Elder Ming chuckled and interrupted him. He calmly and decisively brushed this matter aside and looked at Jianghu. It seems it has something to do with you? Asking the obvious. Jianghu was secretly angry. According to 36 Honorable Elder Ming's identity and strength, he could immediately know what he wanted to know. He spoke so openly just to deliberately make things difficult for her and embarrass her. However, Jianghu didn't dare to say anything and could only repeat what she said earlier. Of course, she said it in a sad, pitiful and sincere way. However, this was of no use to 36 revered Elder Ming. So, you'll be staying in the Yuntian Tower from now on? 36 Honorable Elder Ming asked directly after hearing that. Jianghu choked. Why does this sound so strange? If clan leader can come out of seclusion soon, then Ziyuan can naturally. Clan leader has been in seclusion for a few years. If there's another 10 years, 20 years. TSK, if I remember correctly, Ziyuan, you're already at the age of marriage this year, right? You're wasting your youth here. Wouldn't that be a waste? 36 Honorable Elder Ming sighed. Jianghu's expression instantly became very interesting. Marriage? Was he deliberately mocking her for not being chosen as the princess consort? All these years, everyone thought that she would be the mistress of the Yuntian Tower, but in the end, there was nothing. Jianghu lowered her eyes, afraid that the emotions in her eyes would surge out and be seen by them. She gritted her teeth and said, "This kind of thing can't be forced in the end. It still depends on fate. Moreover, my personal matters are insignificant. Compared to clan leader coming out of seclusion, it's really not worth mentioning. Whether it's 10 years, 20 years, or even longer, I can wait." She spoke very firmly. Because this was her only way out at the moment. 36 Honorable Elder Ming raised his eyebrows and the smile on his face faded. Even if you're willing to do this, you have to see if the others agree. After all, this Yuntian Tower doesn't belong to your Jiang family, right? Jianghu's heart skipped a beat and she quickly defended herself. 36 Honorable Elder Ming, I didn't. Moreover, clan leader status is precious and special. If you go, what kind of name will you have? 36 Honorable Elder Ming stroked his beard. Now that the princess consort is in charge of the Yuntian Tower, she will handle everything. You don't have to worry about this. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 1405. Dead Silence. The moment Chu Luiyue finished speaking, the surrounding air seemed to have frozen. Elder Bo Yan's eyelids twitched violently, and he asked almost instinctively, Used? What does that mean? Chu Luiyue suddenly smiled, and her eyes curved into crescents. I used it to reconstruct the three-eyed eagle's physical body. She was still hesitant about whether she should confess this matter. After thinking for a while, she finally chose to tell the truth. On one hand, the reaction of the scale had already pointed the finger at her, and the Great Phoenix Dragon clan would definitely investigate this matter to the end. On the other hand, she had formed a contract with Zichen, and she would have to summon him whenever she traveled in the Divine Ruins world. The two Great Phoenix Dragon wing bones were in its body, so how could they not find it? This matter could not be concealed at all, and it would be exposed sooner or later. Instead of running away pathetically, it was better to face it directly. So what if she used it? When Mao Yao heard Chu Luiyue's words, his vision turned black, and he almost fainted. This Shangguan Yu actually used their noble corpses to reconstruct the three-eyed eagle's physical body. Disgrace. This was the greatest disgrace. Before coming here, he had imagined countless scenarios. However, he had never thought of this one. Although the three-eyed eagle was also a divine beast, its level was obviously much lower than theirs. How dare Shangguan Yu do this? Mao Yao's chest seemed to be surging wildly, and he could not even complete his sentence. He only raised his finger and pointed at Chu Luiyue, his body trembling slightly. The onlookers were also shocked. What kind of trick was this? Using the great phoenix dragon's corpse to reconstruct the three-eyed eagle's physical body? Although the effect was not bad, that was a great phoenix dragon. Elder Bo Yan's face was blank. At this moment, the first thought that flashed through his mind was, no wonder the three-eyed eagle's combat power was so strong. It did not lose to the crimson gold heavenly phoenix at all. Wuxia, this is a serious matter. Don't let your emotions affect your decisions and speak nonsense. Elder Wanzheng suddenly let out a deep shout. Chu Luiyue looked in the direction of the voice. Elder Wanzheng's face was cold, but his eyes were filled with anxiety and nervousness. Chu Luiyue couldn't help but laugh. She knew that Elder Wanzheng didn't want her to bear the brunt of the danger, so he said that on purpose. But she was the one who did it, so she should bear all the responsibility. She raised her chin slightly. This was done by me alone. It has nothing to do with Taizu or the academy. If you want to find out who's responsible, just come at me. Shengguan Jing went forward and grabbed her arm, looking anxious. Did she know how much trouble this would bring her? The great void phoenix dragon race had chased after him for thousands of years just for that corpse. Now that she had taken it for herself, she had touched their reverse scale. Even he might not be able to protect her. Chu Luiyue's lips curved slightly, and then she pried Taizu's hand away bit by bit. Taizu, one person is responsible for one's actions. This has nothing to do with you. But I knew that this day would come when I dared to do this. After Chu Luiyue finished speaking, she suddenly tapped her toes. Her figure quickly flew into the sky. Finally, she stopped when she was almost at the same level as Mao Yao and the others. You, Elder Wanzheng wanted to go over without thinking, but Elder Huafeng stopped him. Wait, let's see what that girl plans to do. Elder Wanzheng was extremely anxious. What time is it now? If we're late, I'm afraid she would lose her life. Elder Huafeng gritted his teeth. Didn't you see that Rong Xiu hasn't moved yet? Perhaps they have other ways. Elder Wanzheng turned his head and saw that Rong Xiu was still standing on the spot. He looked up slightly and was staring at the two sides that were in a confrontation. His face was expressionless, making it hard to guess. Elder Wanzheng and the others hesitated. They all knew how much Rong Xiu cared about Shengguanyu. But until now, he was still biding his time. Did he really have other ways? In fact, Rong Xiu had already ignored all the chaotic sounds around him. He put one hand behind his back and cracked his knuckles. He seemed to be counting the time, but also seemed to be waiting for something. His deep phoenix eyes seemed to be calm, but in reality, they were surging with undercurrents. Boom! Another bolt of heavenly lightning struck down. The top of Thousand Wine Mountain was already in a mess. Previously, Elder Bo Yan and the others had spent a lot of effort to recover from the incident, and it wasn't easy. Now that the Tianlei had fallen, everything was gone. Trees fell and rocks collapsed. The charred marks were a ghastly sight. Only the spring in the middle seemed to be sealed by an invisible barrier. The Tianlei fell around it, but it did not fall into it. Frost had condensed and covered half of it. Something seemed to be stirring in its depths, ready to erupt at any time. You're quite bold at such a young age. Mao Yao stared at Chu Luiyue and laughed out of anger. Looks like you've already thought about how you're going to die. Chu Luiyue also laughed. Not really. I've died once, so I cherish my life a lot. I'm here to discuss with you how we should resolve this matter. Mao Yao thought he had heard wrongly. You used the corpse of my great phoenix dragon clan, and you still want to live? Dream on. Before he finished speaking, he suddenly raised his hand. Suddenly, a dazzling light burst out from the scales. Then, it turned into a huge dragon and went straight for Chu Luiyue. Shengguan Jing was shocked. Oh no, that's Mao Yao's true body. Digression, 6 p.m. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1406. 36 Respected Elder Ming glanced at her indifferently. His gaze was extremely indifferent, but it suddenly made Jiang Jiwan feel a little ashamed. That was an expression that only a powerful person who had been in a high position for a long time would reveal when facing a weak and lowly ant. Jiang Jiwan suddenly felt uncomfortable in her heart. Although she wasn't born in a real first-rate family or clan, she had always thought of herself as a favored child all these years by relying on the doting of the clan leader, coupled with her moving appearance and outstanding talent. Every time she came to Yuntian Tower, she was proud and high above. There had never been a moment when she understood so clearly that everything about her was inferior to others. She wasn't any nobler than the others. This old man has already said that such a small matter shouldn't alarm the princess consort. It's the same for this old man to do it on her behalf. 36 respected Elder Ming said slowly. But Jiang Jiwan still wanted to defend herself, but she met 36 respected Elder Ming's gaze. She suddenly stopped talking, and the rest of her words were stuck in her throat, unable to be said. Considering each other's faces, this old man didn't say some things directly earlier. But if you insist on being stubborn, this old man won't be polite with you. It was probably because Jiang Jiwan's words that offended 36 respected Elder Ming. His expression became much calmer, and he said slowly, "Jiang Jiwan, the matter of you being expelled from Lingxiao College has already caused an uproar in the city. Why did you come to Yuntian Tower at this juncture? Do you really think that we don't know? Are you treating everyone else as fools?" Lingxiao College was the #1 college in the Divine Ruins world. Although it was extremely difficult to get into, it was very rare that they would expel a student so decisively. All these years, those who were expelled from the college had all committed unforgivable mistakes, which was why they were forcefully expelled from the college. Lingxiao College didn't announce the reason for Jiang Jiwan's expulsion to the public. But just thinking about it, one would know that it wasn't a small matter. After all, she used to be highly regarded in Lingxiao College. One could only imagine what Jiang Jiwan had done to make Lingxiao College make the next decision. How dare she come to the Yuntian Tower to seek protection? Jiang Jiwan's body swayed, and the last trace of blood on her lips completely faded. 36 respected Elder Ming. Elder Yujing frowned. It's normal for young people to make small mistakes occasionally. Besides, small mistake? 36 revered Elder Ming laughed, not concealing his mockery. This old man would like to ask, what kind of small mistake is it? What could make Elder Danqing want to sever their master-disciple relationship? Over the past few years, that old man had been taking special care of Jiang Jiwan. Now that he was willing to do so, it was really hard not to let one's imagination roam. Jiang Jiwan bit her lips. Her eyes were red and tears kept falling. Unfortunately, she couldn't say a single word of rebuttal. Of course, she couldn't reveal the truth to the public. If that was the case, her life would be completely over. Elder Yujing was speechless. But she is ultimately a member of the Jiang family, and the clan leader has always treated her very well. If we stand by and do nothing when she encounters such a situation, how are we going to explain it to the elders in the future? After thinking about it, he could only bring up the clan leader. 36 revered Elder Ming chuckled. Of course, let them explain it themselves. In this day and age, did people who did wrong still have reason? Besides, isn't the Jiang family just one of the subordinate clans of the Yuntian Tower? Since when can they act like a tyrant here? Yu Jing, aren't you helping them too much today? As he spoke, 36 revered Elder Ming narrowed his eyes and sized him up carefully. Elder Yujing felt numb all over from his gaze and quickly changed the topic. Aren't I also doing this for the Yuntian Tower? After all, the Jiang family is the leader of the 28 clans. Now that the clan leader is in seclusion and the saint is not around, if something really happens, whoever makes a mistake will bear the consequences. 36 revered Elder Ming's attitude was very unyielding. After a short silence, both sides were in a stalemate. Jiang Hetian became anxious. 36 revered Elder Ming's position was more important than revered Elder Yujing's. If he insisted on not letting them enter the Yuntian Tower, then, even if a few more revered elders came, there wouldn't be any hope. 36 revered Elder Ming turned to leave. He didn't have much time to waste on these people and such matters. Seal the area with a barrier. Without my orders, no outsiders are allowed to enter. The guard quickly responded. 36 Revered Elder Ming. Please wait. Jianghu suddenly took a step forward. As she spoke, she took out something from her neck and gritted her teeth. I have the clan leader's token. The air froze for a moment. 36 Revered Elder Ming slowly turned around and looked at Jianghu in disbelief. What did you say? Jianghu didn't want to expose this matter at first. After all, it involved too many people. But she really had no other choice. She gripped the item tightly in her hand and said word by word, "We'll want to go to Wanzhong Mountain, Lingshao College, Pengmin Mountain." Inside the tower, it was quiet. Time passed slowly. Even the subtle sound of the wind was hidden. Everything around seemed to have frozen, but it also seemed to be undergoing some subtle changes. At a certain moment, Chu Luiwei opened her eyes again. Her black jade-like eyes flashed with a bright light. It was like a ray of afterglow that was thrown into a pool of autumn water, causing faint ripples. Fine light and shadow intertwined, moving one's heartstrings. She blinked her eyes in a daze. Just now, it was as if a ray of light had flashed past her eyes. This statement wasn't accurate because just now, her eyes were closed. However, she had indeed seen that faint ray of light. It was as if something had flashed into her mind. But when she opened her eyes, everything disappeared again. Chu Luiwei frowned. She had never felt this way before. Only this time, after entering this place, did it inexplicably become like this. And, vaguely, she felt that Elder Meng didn't seem to know about this matter. She tried her best to keep her expression calm as her gaze slowly swept across the 6 doors. Everything was normal. It was as if nothing had happened. Chu Luiwei closed her eyes quietly. Not long after, that ray of light appeared again. This time, Chu Luiwei was finally sure that that thing had indeed quietly entered her mind. That ray of light was like a flying butterfly, wandering back and forth in front of her eyes, as if it was outlining something. Vaguely, Chu Luiwei finally saw the outline of that thing. Immediately, her heart skipped a beat. Because that ray of light had actually outlined a door in her mind. With just a glance, Chu Luiwei was sure that this was the door that she had entered before. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 1407. Didn't this door disappear? Why did it suddenly appear here? Chu Luiwei was stunned for a long time before she finally accepted this fact. She adjusted her breathing and maintained the appearance of everything as usual. Gradually, the outline and lines of the door became clearer. Finally, it appeared in front of Chu Luiwei's eyes. If only this door could be opened. Just as this thought flashed through her mind, Chu Luiwei realized that the door had really opened. At this moment, she realized that her consciousness seemed to be controlled by some kind of power and condensed into a small figure. That small figure was exactly the same as her and could move according to her consciousness. Just as she was about to enter, the small figure entered through the door. Light and shadow changed in front of her eyes. Something seemed to be flying past him at high speed. It brought a gust of cold wind. After a long while, the surroundings gradually quieted down. Chu Luiwei opened her eyes. Immediately, she held her breath. She had actually entered the door. It was still the same square space, and all kinds of free and unrestrained lines were drawn. Even the density of the heaven and earth origin force was exactly the same as before. The invisible surging power began to gather rapidly in Chu Luiwei's body. At the top of the tower, in the quiet and empty room, a blue-robed old man sat cross-legged. His hair was white, and his face was wrinkled with traces of time erosion. His aura was ethereal, and he had the demeanor of an immortal. In the void in front of him, a horsetail whisk floated quietly. It was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. Suddenly, his brows moved slightly. A low and hoarse voice came from his throat. The next moment he opened his eyes. It was a pair of gray eyes that were extremely pure and clean. They were as pure as a newborn baby, and as vast as the vicissitudes of life that had seen thousands of sails, deep and tolerant. If one were to meet such a pair of eyes, it would be as if all the secrets would be exposed. At this moment, he was looking at a door not far in front of him. That door and his horsetail whisk looked at each other from afar, facing each other. A look of contemplation flashed through Elder Meng's eyes. This door doesn't seem right? But upon closer inspection, it seemed to be quite normal, and he couldn't tell what was wrong. Am I thinking too much? Elder Meng calmed his heart. During this period of time, he had been tormented by this thing to the point of choking. It was a little restless before, and he spent a lot of effort to move it from the first floor to the top floor. He put it in front of him and looked at it personally. I can't let anything happen again. Elder Meng stared at the door for a while to make sure there was nothing wrong with it before he closed his eyes again. But his heart was still drumming more or less. This lass, she really doesn't want it just like that? If I catch her later. He muttered a few words to himself before he returned to his meditative state. Only that door teet. Teet know what state she was in her current state entered? Teet. Plus, if it's really such a big movement, there's no reason for Elder Meng to not come out. Unable to figure it out, Chu Liwei decided not to think about it. Time was precious, and she had to seize every opportunity to cultivate as soon as possible. After all, it wasn't easy for her to come here. After calming her mind, Chu Liwei began to focus on cultivation. Now that she was at the early stage of the 9th stage, her cultivation efficiency was naturally much higher than before. Plus, ever since she came back from the northern wilderness, she noticed that her aura seemed to be undergoing obvious changes every day. It was as if she had devoured too much power in the tomb, and now that she was gradually releasing it and integrating it into every inch of her body, her strength naturally increased. Plus, after she broke through to the 9th stage, the changes were far more than that. Chu Liwei thought for a while, and looked at her dantian again. On the water droplet, 9 dazzling lines shone brightly. Although the last line was slightly inferior, it was still very eye-catching. The black pyramid was covered with countless cracks, like a spider web. Especially in the middle, there was a crack that went all the way from the top of the pyramid to the bottom, almost completely penetrating it. Only the last part was still connected to each other. At a glance, it was extremely fragile, as if it could be completely shattered with a casual touch. When Chu Liwei woke up, it was already like this. A faint glow seeped out from those cracks, and there was a faint illusory glow. Even Chu Liwei herself didn't know when the last part of the seal would be broken. She could even feel a strong sense of familiarity. That was indeed her soul, there was no doubt about it. Of course, there were also fragments of memories that she had forgotten. Chu Liwei suppressed the throbbing in her heart and crazily absorbed the surrounding energy. It was like a surging river, surging through a dry riverbed. The dry land was rejuvenated by spring, and everything became full of vitality. Chu Liwei thought, the day when my soul returns, perhaps, it won't be too far away. Jianghu Mountain. Rong Xiu returned from Pengmin Mountain. Just as he arrived at the door, his expression suddenly changed, and his eyes paused on the locked door. A moment later, he pushed the door open and entered. Dugumabao was waiting in the room. Hearing the sound, he turned around. His exquisite and luxurious purple robe was stained with blood. Rong Xiu frowned. You did it. Digression. I'll come back after dinner, it's the last day, don't forget to vote. This month's comment stars, monthly vote stars, and recommendation stars, if you want to verify it. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 1408. I've run into a little trouble. Dugumabao said faintly. He said it casually, but Rong Xiu understood that it was not a small matter for him to be like this. I've blocked all news and used some means. There shouldn't be any problems in the short term. Dugumabao continued. Hearing him say this, Rong Xiu swallowed the rest of his words. Where's you? Dugumabao paused. She seems to have broken through to the 9th stage? It shouldn't be long before she breaks through to the God realm, right? Rong Xiu nodded. She's at Mount Pingmin. Dugumabao narrowed his eyes and didn't speak for a while. There seemed to be a glimmer of light in his demonic purple eyes. She went there on her own? Yes. Yes. Dugumabao didn't look surprised, as if he had already expected it. How much did she remember? Speaking of this, he raised his gaze and looked at Rong Xiu. Rong Xiu's thin scarlet lips curled up slightly. He walked over with a faint smile. I'm really not sure. Some time ago, she was in a coma. When she woke up, she said she wanted to go to Mount Pengmin. Other than that, there didn't seem to be anything unusual. As for what she remembered and how much she remembered, she refused to tell me, so I can't guess. Of course, he knew that Chu Luiwei remembered a lot of things. Otherwise, she wouldn't have directly asked to go to Mount Pengmin and be so sure that he was willing to help. But she didn't seem to want to lay her cards on the table. He simply didn't ask. Dugumabao was silent for a moment. Let her be. During this period of time, there will be a lot of trouble coming to the door. She can also avoid it. I think so too. Rong Xiu nodded. With the support of the academy, I think those people won't be able to cause much trouble. But, are you sure the situation on your side is okay? Otherwise, Dugumabao frowned. With such a serious expression on her chubby, white and tender little face, it was always easy for people to fall out of character. Fortunately, other than himself, only Rong Xiu was here. No need. Dugumabao picked up his teacup. Lingxiao College suffered a lot in this trip to the northern region of the Untainted Land, and there will be a lot of trouble later. Keep an eye on them. Don't worry about that. Rong Xiu smiled. No matter what, Yuntian Tower and I will always be with Lingxiao College. Upon hearing this, Dugumabao was relieved. Although he had always been very picky about Rong Xiu, relatively speaking, among these people, Rong Xiu was considered more reliable. The room fell into a brief silence. I have to make a trip back to the Red Moon Desert, Dugumabao said. There seems to be a problem on Diwu's side. Thinking about it, he had already been out for quite some time. It was time to go back and take a look. He could almost imagine how Lan Xiao had scolded him behind his back. At first, he was a little worried, but now that Chu Luiwei had gone to Mount Pengmin, he might not be out for a while. He could take this opportunity to go back. Please be careful. Rong Xiu nodded and asked again. When are you leaving? Today. Dugumabao had always been a person who paid attention to efficiency. Rong Xiu paused. Then Elder Bo Yen. He seems to have noticed something. Dugumabao took a sip of tea and then said casually, just let it be. Don't worry about it. Anyway, they would not be able to find out anything in a short time. Seeing Dugumabao say this, Rong Xiu did not ask any more. Then please be careful. Dugumabao put down the teacup and walked forward. When he walked to the middle of the room, he stopped. Bang! A small flame suddenly ignited on his robes. Wherever the flame passed, the mottled bloodstains disappeared, and his robe was brand new. Under the light of the flame, it emitted an extremely faint light like scales. In a short while, he had already returned to his normal appearance. Then he waved his hand. The void shook. A crack in space appeared out of nowhere. Dugumabao suddenly turned around and looked at Rong Xiu. During this period, I'll leave you to you. You must take good care of her. Rong Xiu smiled. Rong Xiu has a duty. I will do my best. Of course, he would dote on his princess consort. Dugumabao choked, snorted, and stepped in. His small figure instantly disappeared from the room. The crack in space quickly recovered, and even the energy fluctuations in the room quickly calmed down. Everything was quiet and peaceful as if nothing had happened. Rong Xiu stood quietly on the spot for a while. Just as he was about to turn around and go back, he suddenly stopped in his tracks. He raised his eyebrows slightly and looked out the window. An extremely faint and cold smile seemed to flash across his face. Interesting. It seemed that those people had already gone to the Yuntian Tower and planned to make them take the blame together? Shue shue. Rong Xiu suddenly shouted. Shue shue, who had automatically disappeared for a long time, finally appeared. A snow-white head poked out from behind the screen. Go back to the Yuntian Tower first. Xue Xue's eyes, which were originally filled with hope, suddenly dimmed. Go back? What's so good about going back? My dear Yu is here. Although I can't see her, at least we're in the same place. If I go back, who knows when I'll see her again? Rong Xiu glanced at it with a cold gaze. Patriarch is finally coming out of seclusion. I have to go and express my gratitude. Xue Xue's eyes flashed with surprise. Coming out of seclusion? Meeting Rong Xiu's gaze, Xue Xue suppressed the doubts in its heart, sneezed, and left obediently. When its figure disappeared, Rong Xiu's lips curled up slightly. He actually came out of seclusion. That's really even more exciting. Digression. It's the last day. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1409. The Liang family rushed to the Yuntian Tower as fast as they could and bumped into Jianghu, who was about to leave. When enemies met, their eyes blazed with hatred. Because of Liang Shaokong's death, Liang Ye and Liang Xiaoxiao now viewed everyone in the Tomb of Immortal Water as their enemy. Among them was the head of the Jiang family, Jianghu. Seeing their aggressive approach, Jianghu already understood 70% to 80% of what was going on. Before he came, he had already asked Jiang Jiwan to tell him everything that had happened in the northern region of the wilderness. Jiang Jiwan also knew that only her father could be relied on at this time, so she told him everything. Liang Shaokong's matter was also included. Head of the Liang family. Jiang Jian cupped his hands politely. However, the other party didn't bite. He scanned the surroundings and found that Jiang Jian was the only one here. Jiang Jiwan was nowhere to be seen. His heart sank. Where's Jiang Jiwan? You're asking about my daughter? Oh, she just entered the Yuntian Tower with 36 revered elders Ming and Yu Jing to accompany the head of the family at Wanzhong Mountain. Jiang Jian played it down. However, his words revealed an important piece of information. Jiang Jiwan was now under the protection of the Yuntian Tower. Liang Ye and his daughter's expressions changed slightly. They had hurried over because they were afraid of such a situation. They didn't expect, this is really strange. Jiang Jiwan has already been expelled from Lingxiao College. Logically speaking, the Yuntian Tower wouldn't accept her at this time, right? Why would they let her in? Liang Xiaoxiao didn't have that much patience and directly said coldly. Jiang Jian was displeased, but he could only endure the other party's status and laugh. Although Ziyuan is my daughter, she grew up in the Yuntian Tower and has a close relationship with the head of the family. The revered elders of the Yuntian Tower have always treated her as their closest junior. What's so strange about this? Liang Xiaoxiao sneered. Was Jiang Jiwan worthy? The patriarch of the Yuntian Tower was still in closed-door training. It was impossible for him to speak up for Jiang Jiwan. Moreover, things were different now. Right now, Yuntianke had a real princess consort overseeing it. There was no room for Jiang Jiwan to jump around. I really don't know what kind of tricks that the *TCH used, Patriarch Liang. If you want to see Ziyuan, it's not impossible. You can just ask the guard to report it. However, Ziyuan came here this time to accompany the patriarch out of seclusion. Whether she could come out or not was another matter. Now that the matter had been settled, Jiang Jian's courage was greatly relieved. Liang Xiaoxiao was furious and was about to step forward. Xiaoxiao. Liang Ye was rather calm as he called out to her in a deep voice. Only then did Liang Xiaoxiao manage to suppress the anger in her heart. Since she has already entered the Yuntian Tower, we shall not disturb her any further. Liang Ye was very decisive. The Yuntian Tower should know the consequences of doing this. But they still did it. There must be something fishy going on. Dad, Liang Xiaoxiao was unwilling. Liang Ye looked at her meaningfully and turned to leave. Liang Xiaoxiao stomped her feet and quickly followed. Jiang Jian looked at their backs as they returned in defeat. His hanging heart was finally relieved. No matter what, they had avoided a lot of trouble this time. With the Yuntian Tower, their immortal water mausoleum, would not have any problems. Dad, why did you stop me just now? I want to ask those people in the Yuntian Tower if there's something wrong with their brains. How could such AB*TCH deserve their protection? On the way back, Liang Xiaoxiao was still angry. In comparison, Liang Ye was much calmer. You even know this, do you think those people in the Yuntian Tower don't know? Liang Xiaoxiao was stunned. You mean, the father and daughter of the Jiang family obviously have other cards up their sleeves to make the Yuntian Tower compromise for them. I just don't know, what is it? Liang Ye murmured, puzzled. Xiaoxiao, you used to have a good relationship with her. Do you know anything? Liang Xiaoxiao sneered. She's a person who only thinks for herself and is very careful. If she really had such a powerful card up her sleeve, do you think she would let me know? Liang Ye frowned. If that's the case, it'll be difficult to find trouble with her. Who knows when the leader of the Yuntian Tower will come out of seclusion? Besides, if he comes out of seclusion, what will happen if he protects Jianghu even more? Liang Xiaoxiao was silent for a while before she said, strange. In the end, Jianghu is just a subordinate of the Yuntian Tower. How did she get to such a position? I heard that the leader of the Yuntian Tower doted on her since she was very young and specially brought her to the Yuntian Tower to raise her. If not for that, she would not have been so successful. Liang Ye shook his head. I'm afraid only they know the answer to this mystery. Then, Father, what should we do next? We can't just let her go like this, right? Liang Xiaoxiao would never be willing to do this. Liang Ye pondered for a long time. Send someone to investigate first and see if we can find any evidence. Also, many people have been investigating Chu Yu recently. What do you know about him? Chu Yu? Isn't he on good terms with Rong Xiu? But I don't know anything else. Although Chu Yu's name had been very famous in the academy during this period of time, his background was indeed a mystery. It seems that Rong Xiu wants to protect him. However, I heard that Chu Yu broke through from the 8th stage to the 9th stage in just a few days in the northern part of the Great Desolate Land and was even taken away by a group of mysterious people. You should know that quite a number of aristocratic families have suffered losses in that place this time. How could they be satisfied if they couldn't get the heavenly square cauldron? Perhaps, in the end, this trouble would still fall on Chu Yu's head. Liang Ye pondered for a long time. Go back to the academy first and see what's going on with Chu Yu. I'll go ask the other aristocratic families and see what they plan to do. Maybe we can find some clues related to Xiaokong from them. Although Liang Xiaoxiao wanted to deal with Jianghu immediately, she knew that with the Yuntian Tower's help, this was not something that could be solved in a day or two. For now, she could only plan for the long term. Okay. Lingxiao College. Donghuang Clock Tower. Elder Bo Yen was sitting alone in the room with a thick book in his hand. Ever since the dean left, the school's name list had been kept by him. On it, the names of every elder and student in Lingxiao College for 10,000 years were recorded. Of course, there were also the previous deans. He stared at the totem on the book for a long time before he finally took a deep breath and chose to open it. On the title page, the names of every dean were recorded. His eyes swept across the book one by one and finally stopped at the top. There was no name, only a piece of purple scale armor. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from the Love Network. Chapter 1410. That purple scale was only the size of a fingernail and was faintly glowing. Upon closer inspection, there were slightly undulating carvings on it. It was the totem of Lingxiao College. And this scale was left behind by the first dean of Lingxiao College. Unlike the other deans, this deans did not leave behind their names. Instead, they only used a piece of scale to reveal their identity. In reality, although Lingxiao College was the #1 college in the Divine Ruins world and was famous, no one knew the real name of its first dean. Back then, when he traveled the continent, he used many aliases, but no one knew which one was real and which one was fake. After establishing Lingxiao College, the world only called him dean. 10,000 years had passed, and the world had changed. Things remained the same, but people had changed. The legends and rumors about that person had mostly been buried in the long years and were no longer mentioned. Only the dean of Lingxiao College, Li, had the chance to know the real name of that person. Although Elder Bo Yen was now in charge of everything in the college, he still did not have the authority to see the name under the purple scale. He stared at it for a while, then shifted his gaze and looked at the last name on the page. This person was also at a loss and no one knew where he was. "Dean, you have to come back quickly." Elder Bo Yen could not help but sigh. Knock knock. The sound of knocking suddenly came, interrupting Elder Bo Yan's thoughts. "Bo Yen, something happened." This was Elder Wenxi's voice, with a rare anxiety and nervousness. Elder Bo Yan's heart sank slightly. He closed the book and carefully kept it before getting up to open the door. The moment the door opened, he met Elder Wenxi's worried eyes. "What's wrong?" He had never seen such an expression on Elder Wenxi's face before. Elder Wenxi swallowed his saliva with difficulty. "They're here." Those first-rate families and clans that went to the northern region of the Great Desolate Land before. Elder Wenxi spoke very quickly. "They said that they have something to ask Chuyu and want us to hand Chuyu over." "Ridiculous!" Elder Bo Yen was enraged. This whole thing was carefully planned by someone behind the scenes. They can't find the mastermind, so they came to find trouble with Chuyu. This was completely unreasonable. "Bo Yen." Elder Wenxi took a deep breath. "Every family has people who died in those 9 valleys. You also know that Chuyu is the only one who entered those valleys and clearly benefited from it. They think that Chuyu should give an explanation for this matter." Strictly speaking, Jiang Ji1 had been there before. But not long after she entered, she was chased out by Chuyu. This was something that many people had seen clearly at that time. And it was also after that, it was unknown what Chuyu did, but he sealed the barrier, making it impossible for others to enter. These were all facts that could not be changed no matter what. For them to push the blame onto Chuyu, it seemed like it wasn't completely without basis. Otherwise, they would not have joined forces and forced their way to the entrance of Lingxiao College. Elder Bo Yen frowned. He hadn't seen these things with his own eyes, but he had heard Elder Hua Feng mention it before. At that time, he vaguely felt that something was wrong. But trouble had indeed come. "I'll meet them personally." Fang State City. The streets that used to be bustling with noise and excitement were now empty and silent. Only the area connected to the Spirit Firmament Academy's enchantment was covered in darkness. Everyone in the city heard the news and went back to hide carefully. They were afraid that this storm would affect them. There were only a few dozen people standing here, but the forces behind them were all first-rate families and clans in the Divine Ruins world. With a casual stomp of their feet, they could shake the entire Divine Ruins world. Ordinary people naturally couldn't dodge in time. But in their hearts, they also had doubts. They didn't know what had happened to make these people choose to join forces and challenge Lingxiao College. This was the first time in 100 years. Everyone stood in one place, each of them silent. The atmosphere was oppressive, and the air was condensed. It was almost suffocating. Not far away, the elders in charge of guarding the barrier also had solemn expressions. The confrontation between the two sides was about to break out. When Elder Bo Yen rushed over, this was the scene he saw. Even though his heart was burning with anger, he had no choice but to suppress it at this moment. He took a deep breath and was about to walk out of the barrier. "Bo Yen." Elder Wenxi and the others hesitated and called out to him. They didn't come with good intentions. It would be dangerous to go out rashly. Elder Bo Yen gave them a reassuring look. These people just wanted to use this formation to force them to hand over Chuyu. They didn't really want to completely fall out with Lingxiao College. Now that he represented the entire school, they didn't dare to do anything to him. After comforting them, Elder Bo Yen stepped out of the barrier. He stood in front of the barrier, cupped his hands at everyone, and said with a smile, "You all came from afar, why didn't you greet us in advance? What if we neglect you?" As he spoke, he had already quietly swept his gaze across the faces of these people. Most of them were familiar faces. Many of them had personal grudges against each other. And now, they were all standing on the same side to force them to hand over Chuyu. How laughable! Elder Bo Yen, We're all old acquaintances. Let's not beat around the bush. A middle-aged man spoke. I believe you already know why we're here today. It's up to you whether you want to let him go or not. Elder Bo Yen laughed, but there was no trace of a smile in his eyes. Since that's the case, I won't say any more nonsense. But if you want my Lingxiao College to hand him over, you must have a reason, right? Reason? Elder Bo Yen, you should know this reason too, right? Do you dare to say that Chu Yu really has no problems with the matter of the primordial north? Another younger man raised his voice and spoke with a hint of viciousness in his eyes. So many people died, and only Chu Yu benefited a lot. Moreover, it's obvious that he has something to do with the canyon. You'd better let him come out and explain it to us personally. Elder Bo Yen frowned slightly and took another look at the young man. With so many people working together, their strength was strong. Even these people started to set up the height of heaven and depth of earth. Chu Yu is a student of my Lingxiao College. If he really did something wrong, we won't let him off. But if someone wants to slander and bully him, we won't agree either. Elder Bo Yan's voice wasn't loud, but his words were sonorous. His words were naturally filled with a tyrannical aura. The scene immediately became much quieter. Then he stroked his beard and said slowly, "Moreover, you all came at a bad time. He was just locked up in Mount Pengmin. I'm afraid he won't be able to come out in the short term. Digression, I'll go have a meal first and continue at 6 in the afternoon. I've been running outside every day for the past 2 days and slept for 4 to 5 hours a day. I was so muddled that I thought it was my last day. Yesterday, I couldn't hold on any longer and took medicine to force myself to sleep early. When I woke up, I felt much better. Today is also the day I'm going to add more chapters. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from the Love Network." Chapter 14:11. The moment he said that, everyone was in an uproar. He did not send him in earlier or later, but just had to lock him in at this time. Wasn't this clearly protecting him to the end? Elder Bo Yen, if I remember correctly, that Pengmin Mountain seems to be a place that Lingxiao College specially uses to punish students who have made mistakes. Why was Chu Yu locked up for no reason? A somewhat ear-piercing voice sounded. The scene was silent for a moment. Every pair of eyes looked at Elder Bo Yen suspiciously and inquisitively. Elder Bo Yen stroked his beard. He did indeed violate a few of the school's rules. Originally, he should have been locked up immediately after returning. But at that time, he was in a coma, so we let it go. We only sent him over when he woke up and his body was better. The other party did not let it go. Oh, then I wonder if it's convenient for Elder Bo Yen to reveal which rules Chu Yu violated, so that we can all know a little? Hearing this, the smile on Elder Bo Yan's face faded. This is my Lingxiao College's matter. Whether it's a reward or punishment, it seems, it has nothing to do with outsiders, and there's no need to explain to outsiders, right? They were just a little low-key usually, but it did not mean that the current Lingxiao College could be bullied by others. If everyone wanted to interfere in their school's matters, wouldn't it be chaotic? Elder Bo Yan's words made everyone unable to refute. Now that he was in charge of the entire Lingxiao College, whoever he said was wrong was wrong. If he wanted to punish someone, it was indeed not up to others to interfere. Sensing the cold anger in Elder Bo Yan's words, the other party shut his mouth embarrassedly. However, the others did not intend to let it go. Elder Bo Yen, we have no intention of interfering in your school's matters. But regarding Chu Yu's matter, we must seek an explanation this time. That's right. We have known each other for many years, and you know that we are not unreasonable people. If not for the fact that we had no choice, we would not want to offend your school and come so rashly. Now, there's really no other way. In the northern region of the primordial world, every family has suffered heavy losses, and only Chu Yu has benefited from it. It really makes people suspicious. Actually, Elder Bo Yen, you don't have to be so nervous. As long as you let Chu Yu come over and explain the situation clearly in front of everyone, it will be fine. This way we can talk things out. It's good for everyone, don't you think? These people spoke one after another and said a lot of things. However, Elder Bo Yen only laughed coldly in his heart. He had lived for so many years, what had he not seen before? Hearing this, these people were indeed quite considerate. But in reality, that was not the case at all. If they really wanted to reason things out like this, they wouldn't have come all the way to Fangzhou City and put on such a show. In other words, the knife was already on his shoulder. If he pretended that he wanted to communicate properly, would it be believable? How laughable! Elder Bo Yen was also very magnanimous. Although he was indignant in his heart, his expression did not change much, and he restrained himself from being polite. As the other party spoke, he listened. It wasn't until the other party had spoken until their mouths were dry and their tongues were dry that he nodded his head unhurriedly. Everyone's words are very reasonable. Many people's eyes lit up. However, Elder Bo Yen changed the topic. This old man also has some things to say to all of you. The primordial northern region is very dangerous. Since ancient times, who knows how many experts have gone there but never returned. When all of you brought people there previously, you should have understood this point, right? Not to mention all of you, even my Lingxiao College was in danger this time. We lost 3 elders and several students. You came to my Lingxiao College to ask for an explanation, then, who should we look for? Everyone was speechless. Moreover, when all of you were willing to take the risk to go to the primordial northern region at the beginning, it should have been because of the heavenly square cauldron. Now, everything has been proven. This is just a piece of fake news deliberately released by someone. The purpose is to lure everyone there, and then to cause harm. You did not investigate who the mastermind behind this is, but instead came to my Lingxiao Academy to question a teenager? Do you think that all of this was planned by him? Some people's expressions had already begun to turn ugly. This old man knows why all of you are only targeting Chuyu. It's because he obtained some opportunities in the primordial northern region, and you think that there's something wrong with him. Luck was something that could never be predicted. Just because he had coincidentally obtained something, he had to be attacked by a group of people. Wasn't this a little too unfair? You might not know, but Chuyu originally did not go to the primordial northern region this time. It was only later that someone used some methods to lure Hua Feng and the others there that he followed. Elder Bo Yen laughed, his old and deep gaze swept across the crowd. There's one last point. This old man wants to ask all of you, if you want to find Chuyu for an explanation, can you take out any evidence to prove that the deaths of your people have anything to do with Chuyu? As soon as he finished speaking, the entire place fell silent. In fact, how could they not know that they were just relying on their numbers to make trouble for no reason? In the end, they were just angry. However, they could not find the culprit and could only find a soft persimmon to pinch. Everyone thought that Lingxiao College would hand Chuyu over on account of them coming forward together. However, they did not expect Elder Bo Yan's attitude to be so unyielding. No matter what, he wanted to protect Chuyu. This made some people start to suspect Chuyu's identity. After a moment of stalemate, Elder Bo Yen softened his tone and said amiably, "Actually, this old man can understand everyone's feelings. After all, it's not easy for any aristocratic family to nurture an expert. Furthermore, everyone suffered heavy losses in the primordial northern region. Why don't we join forces to investigate this matter first? There's strength in numbers. Perhaps we can find something. Also, after a period of time, when Chuyu comes out of Mount Pingmin, let him explain it to everyone." Elder Bo Yen retreated in order to advance and gave them a way out. Many people hesitated. They did not want to make things too ugly with Lingxiao College. If they could discuss and resolve it, it would naturally be best. Furthermore, even if Chuyu could hide in Lingxiao College for a while, it was impossible for him to not come out for the rest of his life. As long as they wanted to find him, there would always be a chance. Since Elder Bo Yen had already said so, perhaps they should take a step back. If that's the case, then, I'm afraid that won't work. An opposing voice suddenly sounded. Elder Bo Yen frowned and looked over. The person who spoke was Jean D. "Elder Bo Yen, everyone here came from afar just to let Chuyu come out and explain the matter clearly. If we go back now, who knows how long we will have to wait. Mobile users, please browse and read." A better reading experience comes from the Love Network. Chapter 1412. Elder Bo Yan's voice turned cold. But Chuyu has been locked up in Min Mountain. Isn't it up to you to decide whether to lock him up or not? Jean D rubbed his chin and smiled sinisterly. Could it be that with so many of us here, we can't even invite him? He didn't care what the others thought. Since he was here today, he wouldn't be sent away so easily. Others might be afraid of offending Lingxiao College, but he wasn't. After all, they already had a grudge against each other. Jean D's words made those who were wavering change their minds again. That's right. They had spent a lot of effort to come here. If they just let it go, wouldn't it be a waste of effort? Jean D's words make sense. Elder Bo Yan, for the sake of the big picture, why don't you let Chuyu come over first? That's right. Since everyone is here, they can't do anything to him. What's more, he should know the most. Wouldn't it be more efficient to ask him directly instead of us investigating like headless flies? Everyone's emotions were stirred up again. Elder Bo Yan put his hands behind his back and clenched them into fists. These people, it wouldn't be easy to get rid of them. His gaze turned cold. Just as he was about to speak, a low and pleasant voice came from behind him. Chuyu can't come over for the time being. If you have any questions, just ask me. Everyone looked at the person who came. There was a moment of silence. The man who slowly walked over was tall and slender, handsome and enchanting. From top to bottom, from inside to outside, he seemed to have restrained all the elegance in the world. There wasn't a spot that wasn't perfect. He was really elegant and charming. Elder Bo Yan was stunned. Rongxiu? Why you here? Rongxiu's thin scarlet lips curled into a faint smile. It's rare to be so lively here. Besides, it's not easy to see so many important people in the Divine Ruins world at once. I naturally have to come and take a look. What he said was, This Highness. He wasn't speaking as a student of the school, but as the saint of Yuntian Tower. Elder Bo Yan's eyes flickered. Rongxiu had already walked forward. His cold and indifferent gaze swept across the crowd. Everyone had different expressions. Most of them had never seen Rongxiu before. The famous holy son of the Yuntian Tower had only taken a few years to reach his current position. Moreover, he had always been elusive. In the Divine Ruins world, there were many first-rate families, and the distance between them was very far. If there was no big matter, they would basically not frequent each other. Naturally, there was no chance for them to meet in person. Now that he looked at it, it was indeed a well-deserved reputation. Although he was young, the aura he exuded didn't lose out in the slightest when compared to these people who had rebuked the heavens and earth for many years. Rongxiu, from what you said, you can speak on behalf of Chuyu. Golden Flute's voice was full of doubt. So, you know everything that happened to him in the northern region of Untainted Land? You can explain everything clearly? Rongxiu smiled and asked in return, Are you questioning I? Golden Flute choked. Just as he was about to angrily retort, he met Rongxiu's eyes that were as deep as an icy pond. In an instant, a chill suddenly surged in his heart, and most of his anger was inexplicably extinguished. That disdainful and indifferent gaze suddenly reminded him, according to the other party's status, he was indeed qualified to speak to him like this. Rongxiu was the holy son of the Yuntian Tower. Most importantly, he now held great power in his hands. Only the sect master of the Golden Wing sect could be on equal footing with him. And he, Golden Flute, absolutely did not have this qualification. Even if he was old and experienced, it was still not enough. The atmosphere became somewhat stiff and strange. They might have dared to threaten Elder Bo Yan, but they didn't dare to treat Rongxiu like this. Because Elder Bo Yan didn't dare to bet the entire academy, but Rongxiu could raise the power of the Yuntian Tower and fight to the death with them. This was a ruthless character who killed without batting an eyelid. Over the years, there were many rumors about this holy son, and most of them were filled with bloodshed and brutality. He could even wipe out one of the 28 divisions of the Yuntian Tower, the unparalleled palace, let alone others. After a while, someone finally asked awkwardly, Rongxiu, now, With what identity are you answering these questions on behalf of Chuyu? Everyone's ears perked up. Even Elder Bo Yan's heart tightened. This question was actually asking about the relationship between the two of them. Rong Xiu's answer would determine how they would treat Chuyu in the future, so it was very important. In the silence, Rong Xiu's sword-like eyebrows raised slightly, and the corners of his lips curled into a slight smile. If I must give a title, I am her direct relative. Now, if you have any questions, you can ask. Red Moon Desert. It was currently daytime, and the scorching sun was overhead. Yellow sand billowed, and the air seemed to be distorted by the heat waves. A petite and vigorous figure suddenly appeared on the sand dune. Suddenly, the surrounding yellow sand rapidly gathered, and in the blink of an eye, it formed several sand balls. They flew towards that person from all directions. Swoosh! That figure instantly disappeared from where she was. These sandballs collided with each other and quickly dispersed. In the next moment, on another sand dune dozens of miles away, that figure appeared again. A fist formed by yellow sand suddenly appeared from the void and went straight for that person's back. However, that person seemed to have eyes at the back of her head. She bent her waist and quickly pounced forward. She narrowly avoided this attack. At the same time, her feet moved quickly, and she immediately kicked with her long legs. Bang! The fist formed by yellow sand was instantly kicked to pieces. Only then did that figure finally heave a sigh of relief. She straightened her body and smiled brightly, her almond-shaped eyes sparkling. This person was Mu Hongyu, who had been specially sent here by Chu Liwei to cultivate. After staying here for a few months, her originally fair face had been tanned to a wheat color. The daily high-load training almost left her no time to rest, but fortunately, she gritted her teeth and persevered. Senior Diwu, this time, I finally passed the test, right? Digression. After a meal, I will continue at about 9 o'clock. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from LoveNet. Chapter 1413. Only the heavens knew how much she had suffered for this day. However, what comforted her was that her strength had also increased rapidly in this process. Just yesterday, she had broken through to become a rank 9 warrior. It was also because of this that she was able to deal with such a difficult and complicated test so easily today. Before coming here, even she herself did not expect that she would be able to complete such a huge breakthrough in such a short period of time. Not bad. Fifth Elder's smiling voice sounded. Not far away, faint ripples appeared on the clear lake. After breaking through to rank 9, your strength has increased a lot. To you, all of this is no longer a big deal. After receiving the affirmation, Mu Hongyu's smile became even brighter. Thank you, Senior Diwu. Then, she blinked and asked apprehensively, what's the matter? You said before that as long as I pass the test, you will send me to see Lu Yu. Ha! I knew you were going to mention this. Don't worry, I will never go back on my promise to you. Fifth Elder answered very straightforwardly. It's just that this matter can't be rushed. We have to wait for an opportunity first. Mu Hongyu was a little confused. Opportunity? What kind of opportunity? At this moment, the sound of something breaking through the air suddenly came from the sky. She looked back. A purple light flew over from the horizon. In the blink of an eye, it was in front of her. Mu Hongyu widened her eyes slightly, feeling that this aura was very familiar. Wait, isn't this swoosh? Before she could see clearly, the other party had already disappeared in a flash. Only an afterimage was left as it gradually dissipated. A soft sound came from the lake not far away. Mu Hongyu subconsciously held her breath. This should be that person returning, right? But why doesn't Lu Yu seem to be with him? Mu Hongyu scanned her surroundings with uncertainty. Indeed, she did not see that familiar figure and was a little disappointed. Hongyu, go and rest first. Diu Zhang's voice sounded. Mu Hongyu was a little confused, but she still obediently agreed. Yes. She glanced in the direction of the lake a few times before her figure flashed and disappeared into the void. Under the lake, there was an extremely hidden space. The 4 walls were made of black iron, and each wall was engraved with strange patterns that emitted rays of light. These lights intertwined and overlapped with each other, forming a huge and complicated rune. A heavy pressure continuously spread out from within. It could almost crush everything. Under the rune, 2 illusory figures were suppressed. It was Diwuzhangzi and Lan Xiao. The runes pierced through their heads and bodies, nailing them to the ground. Apart from the night of the scarlet moon, none of them could leave this place. This was a cage. Purple light flickered. Dugu Mabao's figure gradually appeared. His gaze swept across the 2 of them calmly, and when he saw Lan Xiao, he frowned. This was because Lan Xiao's figure was obviously much more illusory than Diwuzhangzi's, and his aura was weak. Furthermore, half of his handsome face had festered away. He was sitting cross-legged with his brows tightly knitted. He didn't look well. "Debao, you're finally back." Diwuzhangzi let out a long sigh. "What's wrong with him?" Dugu Mabao asked in a low voice. Lan Xiao valued his face the most, and he definitely wouldn't allow his face to become like this. Clearly, something must have happened. Diwuzhangzi sighed helplessly. "It's all because he wants to leave this place. After you left, he also wanted to forcefully reconstruct his divine body, but he didn't succeed, and became like this." Lan Xiao's strength wasn't comparable to Dugu Mabao's. Dugu Mabao had failed once, but he still had the ability to try a second time, but Lan Xiao couldn't. Furthermore, Dugu Mabao only succeeded because of Rong Xiu and Chu Liuyue's help. How could Lan Xiao succeed when he was fighting alone? Stupid. Impulsive. Dugu Mabao was also angry. Doesn't he know how dangerous it is to do this? He's waited for so many years. What's the difference in time? Diwuzhangzi smiled bitterly and shook his head. "I also advised him, but you fought with someone before, right?" Dugu Mabao paused. "I've already blocked the news. As long as you fight, the other party will notice. It's just a matter of time." Diwuzhangzi interrupted Dugu Mabao, which was rare. "If you weren't in big trouble, you definitely wouldn't have fought so easily." Lan Xiao was anxious, so Dugu Mabao was silent for a moment. "I didn't think it through. The situation was too urgent, so I didn't care about that. You've always been cautious, so how could you not care? You must have been in a desperate situation, so you had no choice." They had known each other for many years and knew each other very well. Others might believe these words, but they couldn't fool the other party. There was a moment of silence. Dugu Mabao said, "Forget it. We'll talk about this later. Let's heal him first." Diwuzhangzi nodded. During this period he had put in a lot of effort to stabilize Lan Xiao's injuries. However, without a divine body, there was a limit to what he could do. He could only rely on Dugu Mabao. "By the way, how's Yuba?" Diwuzhangzi asked with concern. They had been gone for a few months, and he didn't know how they were doing over there. Dugu Mabao's eyebrows twitched slightly. "She should be breaking through to the God realm soon." Lingxiao College. Chu Luiyue was unaware of everything that was happening in the outside world. Her eyes were tightly shut, and she seemed to have entered a strange state. The aura on her body was also rising at an alarming speed. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 14:14. Elder Meng, who was sitting cross-legged on the top floor, suddenly opened his eyes, his face full of surprise. The kid. How is his cultivation speed so fast? It hasn't been long since he came in. How is his aura so much stronger? Elder Meng faintly felt that something was wrong. He retracted the horsetail whisk floating in front of him, got up and walked outside, wanting to go down and see for himself. Just as he took 2 steps, he paused and turned back to take a look. In the empty room, the door floated quietly. It looked no different from before. As for that unsettling commotion, it didn't appear again. There shouldn't be any more problems, right? He thought silently. Suppressing the uneasiness in his heart, Elder Meng turned around and went downstairs. His figure quickly disappeared. A strange pattern flashed on the door that was floating in the air all by itself. It disappeared in the blink of an eye. The tower on Mount Pingmin had a total of 7 floors. Elder Meng usually stayed on the top floor. He would only come down when there were some special circumstances. However, there were not many such opportunities. Especially, and it was because of a student. Elder Meng went down the stairs, his footsteps were silent, and he did not cause any commotion. When he reached the 2nd floor, he finally stopped for a short while and looked down at the young man sitting cross-legged in the middle of the room. The young man had his eyes closed, his face was calm, and he did not move at all. Compared to before, there did not seem to be any changes. However, there was a faint surge of force around him. It seemed like it was about to boil. This was a fluctuation that would only appear when a cultivator was madly devouring force and his strength was rapidly increasing. Elder Meng frowned slightly. Although the force of heaven and earth in the tower was considered rich, it did not seem to be to this extent. He stared at it for a while, and only then did he see something fishy. A portion of the origin power surging in Chu Yu's body seemed to have erupted from within his body. He was absorbing the force of the outside world while digging out the stored force in his body and completely fusing it with himself. Attacking both internally and externally, this allowed him to rapidly increase his strength. Elder Meng narrowed his eyes. It seemed that this kid was quite capable. Earlier, he felt that Chu Yu was not as simple as he seemed. From the looks of it now, it was indeed so. Suddenly, a beautiful ray of light flew out from Chu Liyue's left palm. A powerful pressure spread out in all directions. Elder Meng widened his eyes slightly. That is, divine power. He had long known about the fact that Chu Yu had a strand of divine power in his body. But the current situation, Chu Yu wanted to fuse with this divine power? Elder Meng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. In the past few months since Chu Yu had entered Lingxiao College, his strength had increased extremely quickly. After returning from the northern region of the Great Desolate Land, he had directly broken through to the 9th stage. But, in the end, the 9th step was only the 9th step. Only deities could fuse divine power. Chu Yu was still far away from this step. Elder Meng couldn't help but shake his head. Looks like this kid's heart is really big. It was true that he wanted to become stronger, but he had to be reasonable, right? He's still a young and impetuous child after all. After watching for a while, Elder Meng felt that his inexplicable worries and uneasiness were unnecessary. He thought for a moment and decided not to disturb him. Young people had to suffer some losses to grow up. He'd better go busy himself with his own matters first. Thinking of this, Elder Meng turned around and returned. Just like when he came, he was still light and silent. That beautiful light circled around Chu Liyue's palm. The brilliant light shone on her face, making her skin as clear as white porcelain. In her body, countless forces surged in her yuan meridian, almost whistling like the wind. Her body seemed to be surrounded by warm spring water. Heat and origin power spread through every part of her body and nourished her silently. Every inch of her bones and flesh was undergoing an astonishing change in silence. At a certain moment, she opened her eyes. When she saw that she was still in that strange square space, Chu Liyue knew that she didn't see this with her eyes. A bright light flickered in front of her. The beautiful light made it look very moving. That was a strand of divine power stored in her body. Chu Liyue was a little surprised. She didn't know why it ran out on its own. But she suddenly had an idea in her mind. If she could completely integrate this divine power, it would be very beneficial to her cultivation. Somehow, as if she had been imprinted, Chu Liyue raised her hand and grabbed that ball of light. The light was like quicksand, flowing through the gaps between her fingers. It was impossible for a rank 9 warrior to devour divine power. Chu Liyue suddenly came back to her senses. She laughed at herself and was about to retract her hand. But at this moment, there was a sudden movement on the wall in front of her. She seemed to have sensed something and looked up. All of a sudden, those strange lines began to move. They gathered together and formed a strange pattern in the blink of an eye. Chu Liyue looked at it and frowned. She felt that this pattern was a little familiar. The next moment, that ball of divine power suddenly floated toward the pattern. The pattern rotated gently. Every line was exquisite and beautiful, elegant and agile. And in this process, that ball of divine power was silently crushed. It turned into specks of starlight. Whoosh, a gentle breeze blew, and those starlights surged like a tide, flying toward Chu Luiyue and merging into every part of her body. Chu Luiyue was stunned for a moment, and a deep shock surged in her eyes. This space, actually erased the divine sense of that divine power so easily and belonged to her? Digression. Tomorrow at 12 o'clock. Today is the last day. Please give me a monthly rating moi. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from the Love Network. Chapter 1416. Boom. A loud sound suddenly came from one of the nearby mountain peaks. Luo Yanlin and the others looked over in shock. What's going on? Luo Yanlin gestured for the two of them to calm down as he took a few steps forward to take a closer look. Halfway up the opposite mountain, a cave collapsed with a loud rumble. A few boulders rolled down, stirring up a cloud of dust and almost sealing the cave entrance. That's Lin Qifei's residence. Luo Yanming also came over. After taking a closer look, she frowned. He seems to have been cultivating in seclusion recently. I don't know what happened, but he actually caused such a huge commotion. Lin Qifei was one of the most outstanding students that the academy had recruited in the past 6 months. In addition, he was also a mystic master, so Luo Yanming had been paying attention to him. Lin Qifei. Luo Yanlin raised his eyebrows. I haven't seen him in a while. Lin Qifei didn't follow the academy to the primeval north and had been cultivating peacefully in the academy. Especially after he defeated Jianghu in public, he stayed in his residence and didn't come out much. He was very low-key. Many people couldn't figure out what Lin Qifei was thinking, including Luo Yanming. Later, he wanted to spar with him several times, but he couldn't find a suitable opportunity. Did something happen to him? Should we go over and take a look? Luo Shishir asked worriedly. Judging from the commotion, it didn't seem like he was fine. Luo Yanlin was about to move when he suddenly paused. No need. As soon as he said that, the pile of boulders was suddenly pushed aside. A thin and tall figure walked out from within. It was Lin Qifei, whom he hadn't seen in a long time. His face and body were covered in dust, and there seemed to be blood at the corner of his mouth. He looked a little haggard. He seemed to be choking on the dust and coughed as he walked. However, Luo Shishir and the others were relieved. Looks like he's fine. Luo Shishir heaved a sigh of relief. Although they weren't familiar with each other, they were all classmates. Naturally, they didn't want to see anything happen to him, especially since Lin Qifei was more talented than a Xian master. Wouldn't it be a pity if something happened to him? Suddenly, Luo Yanlin's eyes narrowed as he stared at Lin Qifei. Fourth brother, what's wrong? Luo Shishir and the other two sensed that something was wrong and looked at him strangely. This Lin Qifei, Luo Yanlin said hesitantly, as if he was guessing something. His eyes were surging with emotions. If I'm not mistaken, the fluctuation coming from the cave seems to be the movement caused by the construction of a teleportation array? Although it was very subtle, his strength was tyrannical, and he had the experience of building a teleportation array with the elders of the clan, so he could acutely sense it. Could it be that Lin Qifei was trying to build the teleportation portal alone in that cave? This sudden thought made Luo Yanlin's mind a little uncertain. This was because constructing a teleportation array was an extremely complicated and difficult task. Normally speaking, even ordinary Xian King masters only knew a little about it. Lin Qifei was actually trying this now. Then what is his true strength? Judging from the situation just now, Lin Qifei should have failed. However, to be able to create such a commotion, it meant that he had at least grasped the knack of it. Luo Yanlin was a little shocked. He had always known that Lin Qifei was very talented and had a calm temperament. In the past few months since he entered the school, other than the examination at the beginning of the month and the confrontation with Jianghu, he seemed to have disappeared and focused on cultivating. Why would such a person not succeed? That was why Luo Yanlin had always thought highly of him. However, It was only today that he realized that he might have underestimated him. Lin Jifei seemed to be aware of their gazes. He stood still and raised his eyes to look at them. After seeing their faces clearly, Lin Jifei's expression was magnanimous. He nodded politely at them and smiled. It's as if everything is normal. I don't feel embarrassed about being discovered. Luo Yanlin nodded and retracted his gaze. Looks like he's fine. Luo Yanming stared at him a few more times. As a Xian master, he instinctively felt that something was wrong, but he couldn't say what it was. Alright, that's all for today. You two go back and cultivate. There's still an examination when you go back home. Got it, fourth brother. Fang State City. The two sides were still in a tug-of-war. In that case, you also don't know who the person who took Chuyu away is? In the end, is it only Chuyu himself who knows? Jin Di asked coldly. Rong Xiu raised his eyebrows slightly. She doesn't know either. Jin Di snorted. Who knows if she really doesn't know or if she's just pretending? Rong Xiu's lips curled up slightly, but it was an extremely cold smile. If she knows, she'll definitely tell I. Do you all think that if I knew who that person was, would I still be here, talking and laughing? His voice was deep and cold to begin with. Now that his voice was slightly dragged out, there was a hint of coldness in it, making people feel a chill in their hearts. Silence. Many people looked at each other. Rong Xiu's words weren't unreasonable. Anyone could see how protective he was of that Chuyu. If he knew who bullied Chuyu and who was behind all this, with his domineering personality, he wouldn't have swallowed his anger until now. It seemed that he really didn't know. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 1417. Elder Bo Yen came out to smooth things over. Everyone about this matter, we want to find out the truth as soon as possible, just like all of you. After all, whether it's our Lingxiao College or Yuntian Tower, we suffered a loss this time. As for Chuyu, he did get some opportunities, but it's not like he didn't get into any trouble. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been taken away by those people, right? He sighed. To tell you the truth, when Rong Xiu rescued Chuyu, he was seriously injured and unconscious. He has been in a deep sleep during this period of time. It wasn't easy for him to wake up recently. Otherwise, we wouldn't have locked him up in Pengmin Mountain, right? These words made many people's minds waver. Could it be Chuyu was taken away by the mysterious people because he entered that place alone? If that was the case, it seemed to be explainable. In my opinion, we should work together to find out the truth. After a fierce confrontation, someone finally began to compromise. Then, since Elder Bo Yen has said so, let's check it out first? I think that's fine. At most, we can wait for Chuyu to come out and explain it to us. It's useless for us to stay here. Why don't we go back and find a way to find clues? Elder Bo Yen took the initiative to give them a way out, so naturally, some people followed suit. Originally, there were still some people who wanted to continue to argue, but seeing that the situation was not right, they chose to keep quiet. At this moment, Jin Di suddenly thought of something and stepped forward. Wait, I have one last question. Everyone was quiet for a moment and looked over. Rong Xiu nodded. Just say it. Jin Di laughed, but there was no smile in his eyes. What I want to ask is, the sword Chuyu used, is it the one he took from Jin Lei? As soon as these words came out, many people were surprised. In fact, the whole Divine Ruins world knew about the matter between the Golden Wing sect and Lingxiao College. Logically speaking, the people of the Golden Wing sect should be very reluctant to mention this matter in front of everyone. After all, they were completely defeated. But now, why did Jin Di suddenly mention this? Elder Bo Yan's heart tightened as he looked at Rong Xiu quietly. Rong Xiu's expression didn't change as he lightly asked, why? So what if I am? So what if I'm not? Anyway, that thing is hers, so it doesn't seem to make any difference, right? Jin Di laughed. Why not? The difference was huge. Rong Xiu, that sword should be a genuine venerable artifact, right? As soon as he finished speaking, there was dead silence all around. A venerable artifact. Even in the entire Divine Ruins world, It was a top-notch treasure. It was a rare item that all the aristocratic families and clans fought over. How many years had it been since a venerable artifact had appeared in the Divine Ruins world? What is Golden Flute saying now? Chu Yu was using a venerable divine artifact? For a moment, the way everyone looked at Rong Xiu changed. Although they tried their best to restrain themselves, it was still difficult to conceal the curiosity and passion in their eyes. At first, they didn't feel it, but when Jianghu said this, they felt that something was wrong. When they were in the northern border of the wilderness, many had seen Chu Luiwei use a sword with their own eyes. At the very least, the mysterious realm in the middle of the 9 canyons, the hard door that seemed to be forever unbreakable, was split open by him with a sword. Thinking about it carefully, it was probably a venerable artifact that could do this, right? Rong Xiu looked at Jianghu, his phoenix-like eyes deepened. This question was really malicious. In the silent atmosphere that seemed to be frozen, Rong Xiu finally spoke. Whether it's true or not, next time let her see it personally, won't you know? The smile on Jianghu's face suddenly froze. Are you threatening me? Rong Xiu chuckled. Yes. Since the other party was so crafty and mean, there was no need for him to be merciful. If the sect master of the Golden Wing sect was here, he might be polite. A mere Jianghu, what the hell? You, Jianghu's face suddenly turned into a pig liver color. But it depends on her wishes. Rong Xiu smiled faintly. If she thinks it's troublesome, then I can't help but do it myself. Every word and sentence was light, but it was wrapped in a thunderous momentum, which made people's hearts tremble. Jianghu was so angry that he immediately went forward without care. Boom! A ball of golden flame burned fiercely in front of him. Terrible air waves rolled over, and the scorching heat made him suffer. Jianghu let out a shrill scream, and his body flew backward. Bang! His body fell heavily to the ground, making a muffled sound. The sound of bones breaking could be heard clearly, and even his face and body were full of blood. He was in a sorry state, and his aura was weak, very miserable. Everyone was shocked on the spot. No one expected that Rong Xiu would suddenly attack. And the moment he attacked, he was so ruthless. The opponent was the second in command of the Golden Wing sect, Jianghu. Jianghu wanted to speak, but blood kept gushing out between his lips and teeth, choking him until he coughed. A terrifying cold aura instantly enveloped him. It almost made him unable to move. At this moment, Jianghu felt an incomparably sharp killing intent. He had no doubt that as long as he opened his mouth to say another word, Rong Xiu would not hesitate to kill him on the spot. He curled up his body, reluctantly raised his head, and glanced at Rong Xiu. But he saw that handsome young man, who looked like a demon and immortal, smiled slightly. In front of you still want to have evil thoughts about her. Do you think I am dead? Digression, I fell asleep at 4 o'clock yesterday, and I went crazy. Boo-hoo. At 6 o'clock in the afternoon, boo-hoo. The star of the monthly votes has not been verified yet, so we don't want it anymore. Boo-hoo. Mobile users, please browse and read, a better reading experience from love. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Immortal Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.